Hey guys, Kai here, back with a new video. Today's video is going to be a guide specifically on what weapons you'll be wanting to bring into the likes of GM Nightfalls, Legendary and Master Lost sectors, and whatever content that comes out in the following season that has champions that you need anti-champion mods to kill. So I'm going to be mentioning a plethora of exotics in this video, and I'm also going to try cover every single element, Arc, Solar, and Void, and also Kinetic. The reason I'm doing this is because if there's an Arc Captain, and I've only recommended you a Void weapon, then you may be lost, hence why I'm going to mention multiple different elements. The unstoppable mods on the artifact this season are pulse rifles and all forms of fusion rifles. Starting with the kinetic pulse rifles, you have quite a few options, but I would recommend Chattering Bone from the Last Wish raid, or the Legal Action 2, which is in a World Loot Pool. This slot is really down to preference and what you own. Legal Action will have superior range and some pretty nice perks for Grandmasters, like Frenzy and Osmosis if you're trying to be a bit flexible. However, something like Charring Bone, maybe you prefer how that feels. I'd also like to mention Outbreak Perfected, as this gun can be alright for long-term damage, so if your energy and heavy weapon are both legendaries, then you may want to gravitate towards this option, as you've got a slot free, you may as well. For energy pulses, your best options will be Last Perdition for Void, as it has really good range and is nice overall. For Arc, you may want to gravitate towards the Dark as Before from the Prophecy Dungeon, as it can drop Overflow, which is of course really nice in everywhere. But you also want to keep in mind it does have a bit lacking of range. And if you do not like the lack of range, or you cannot get the pulse itself, then you may want to use a Giant 7 rifle. They are both arc. For solar, you want to use Forge's Pledge, which can be earned in the Iron Banner playlist. It has auto loading, which may come in handy, but that's about where it peaks in terms of perks. Or you can use Stars and Shadow from the previous seasons, and it has a Vorpal weapon, which of course is going to be really nice for champions and bosses. If you are wanting to use a fusion rifle, however, for Unstoppable, then your best bet is going to be the Cartesian Coordinate, as you can make use of this season's Particle Deconstruction mod, which grants a huge damage boosts to solar, linear, and non-linear fusion rifles. Cartesian also has Vorpal weapon, which of course is fantastic. If you need an Arc fusion rifle, then I would recommend the Plug 1, especially the Adept variant with Adept Big One spec. And for Void, your best bet will be Null Composure from Season of the Splicer, or this season's new exotic weapon from the past, Lorentz Driver, will have more range. Not sure how it fares in harder content, however, it just destroys ads. It does a huge amount of damage. Looking at using Unstoppable weapon in the heavy slot, then your best bet will be Sleeper Simulant, as it will not only stun the champions, but will be a good choice for damaging bosses. However, if you want a legendary heavy or a void heavy, then I would recommend Threaded Needle from Season of the Chosen with Vorpal weapon. And if you need an arc heavy, you're fairly limited. However, Tarantula will work just fine. If you are wanting some nice weapons to destroy some overload champions this season, then you're going to be looking towards bows and maybe swords. Whilst energy bows will be significantly better options, if you are needing a kinetic bow, then I would recommend any bow with explosive tip or a damage perk like Vorpal weapon. Some to mention would be the likes of a Cure Redemption from the Garden of Salvation raid. Now onto the crown jewels, being the energy bows. Your main contenders will be the exotic ones. However, if your exotic slot is taken, then for Void I would recommend the Season of the Chosen Bow, Imperial Needle. It can roll explosive tip, and Vorpal. For Solar, I would recommend Tyranny of Heaven from the Last Wish raid, which also has explosive payload. However, if you need an arc option, your best bet is Point of the Stag from Seasonal Arrival, which has Vorpal weapon, Arsenic Bite, which is inferior to Point of the Stag. However, a bow's a bow, you need arc. You're just gonna have to settle with it. Now for the exotic bows. For Void, you're wanting to use Monarque, which will constantly damage your champions, stopping its regeneration ability in the downtime. If you're wanting a solar weapon, then Tiku's Divination from Season of the Chosen will be a fantastic option. Tiku's Divination is a very safe bow to use, as you can hit fire and it has tracking. If you spam hit fire shots and then a fully charged aimed in shot, you will do huge amounts of damage and will rip through any overload champ. For Arc, I would once again just use Tiku's Divination or one of the legendary bows, as the only exotic Arc bow is Trinity Ghoul, which is more for low-end add clear content. Now for Overload, there isn't much reason to mention swords because close quarter encounters are risky, and the bows are just so good. However, swords like Falling Guillotine will do just fine. Finally, let's talk about the anti-barrier mods. Starting with auto rifles, and I cannot recommend any of the exotic ones as they are about equal to the legendary ones. I don't see any of them as above, and if they are, it's so minor that it doesn't matter. They are not worth your exotic slot in this case. However, for the kinetic slot, your best choice will be the legendary auto rifle, Scathelocke. In general, the kinetic slot is pretty dead, and once again, just kind of goes down to preference as they're all pretty much equal. However, Scathelocke looks nice, feels nice, and has some fine mods on it. It is also highly accessible. For the energy slot, specifically the Void, I would recommend Gnawing Hunger, which you can get Overflow. Overflow is a fantastic perk as it means you don't have to reload as often. Once again, also, Gnawing Hunger is highly accessible. If you need an Arc auto rifle, then I would recommend Shadow Price, preferably the Adept version with Overflow and Disruption Break, or One for All. For the solar slot, I would recommend this season's auto rifle, Triuzamello? I can't pronounce that. However, you want to get this Triuzamello gun with Frenzy and preferably 4th time's the charm. However, if your exotic slot is free, then by far the best option will be Ariana's Vow, preferably with the Catalyst, since not only is it good for damage on champions and bosses, it also has a fantastic ammo economy and a large amount of range, which is amazing for something like a Grandmaster Nightfall. If you do end up in a close range encounter, then a sword like the Lament will fare just fine. It will not only take their shields off, it will also rip through Void, Arc, and Solar shields, despite it only being a solar weapon due to it just being a beast. It will also heal you, sort of alleviating the risk a bit. And on that note, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section down below, I'll be sure to reply. If you found this video of any use to you, then a like would be very much appreciated. And if you want to see me solo content like dungeons, missions, nightfalls, and lost sectors, as well as watching my commentary videos and other guides like this, then check out some of my other videos on my channel and maybe even consider subscribing. If you hit the notification bell, then in a couple months' time when they are out, I will be uploading every single Grandmaster video. But yeah, thank you once again for watching. Have a good day and see ya.